بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So today we continue inshallah Kitab al-Siyam from Umdat al-Fiqh. And last week we did the people who are allowed to break the fast. The fast is obligatory on them, but they're allowed shar'an. Islam allows them to be able to break their fast in certain instances. Today, inshallah, we'll do bab ma yufsidu as-sawm. The things that break the fast or spoil the fast or nullify a person's fast. Those things that nullify a person's fast. And again, this book, Umdat al-Fiqh, is a beginner's book. So it's not very detailed because there are a lot of issues connected to what can break the fast and what doesn't break the fast. So on this level, the introduction or this type of book gives, we'll say, the surface. It doesn't really give all of the branches that come off, all of the possibilities that could break the fast, right? All the issues connected to it, but it gives pretty much the surface, more or less. طيب. قال رحمه الله من أكل أو شرب أو استعطى أو أوصل إلى جوفه شيئا من أي موضع كان. The first thing, and this a few issues connected to it. Whoever eats or drinks, whoever is fasting during the day Ramadan and they eat or they drink something, connected to eating and drinking is ista'ta. To enter something into the nose, right? To enter something into the nasal passage, which could be medicine, right? Somebody could spray a mist, some medicine into the nasal passage, right? To enter something into the nose. And this is intentionally. A person does these things intentionally. All these things are intentional. A person eats intentionally in the middle of the day during Ramadan, or they drink intentionally, or they intentionally use some type of medicine or something in the nose. Or maybe they just inhaling something intentionally that's going to enter into the body. أو أوصل إلى جوفه شيئا من أي موضع كان. من أي موضع كان. Or anything that enters into the jof. Anything that enters into the jof. من أي موضع كان. From anything or from any type of entrance into the body. Right? The body has, for example, the nose is an entrance, the mouth is an entrance, the ear is something that enters through the ear, the rectum, the eyelid here, right? If something enters through anything that can enter into the body, or wasala ila jof, that the issue is, what is the jof? We say the inside of the body, the jof, and that's a whole khilaf in itself, difference of opinion of what's considered the jof. Here, the mu'allif rahimahullah, he's talking about three things. Either something reaches a person's throat or the head. You know, the nose and the ears and the head are connected. Something goes to the head. Or it reaches the stomach. Anything that reaches these three places and the person does it intentionally, it breaks the fast. طيب. Anything. And this is where the khilaf comes in. Is it anything that enters the body, as the author says here? And this is one opinion. Anything that enters the body, whether it's food or not, right? Whether it enters to a normal entrance into the body or something that's not normal. For example, the mouth is a normal entrance to the body, right? But let's say the eyeball here, it's possible something can enter into the body seeping through. This is not a normal entrance. But even if something enters into that through that way, on this position, it breaks the fast. This is one. This is one position. As the other side, the other ulama, they say that what enters into the body has to be something that is a substitute for food. If it's a substitute for food or drink, then it breaks the fast. But if it's not a substitute for food or drink, then it doesn't break the fast. Clear? Like a person may be, for example, on an IV, right? The IV is a substitute. A person can't eat or drink. They use an IV to get their nourishment, to be nourished through the IV. That IV is a substitute for food. If it's a substitute for food, it breaks the fast. To those who hold the opinion that it has to be a substitute for food. Those who don't hold that opinion, anything that enters, whether it's a substitute for food or not, it breaks the fast. The author here is on the first opinion. Anything that enters, whether it's a substitute for food or it's not a substitute for food. So under eating and drinking is included entering something through the nose, which could be medicine. And this is where it comes in, intentionally inhaling what used to be the, incense, right? The smoke from incense. Intentionally inhaling that. Bukhur. People might say, who inhales incense intentionally, right? Do people do that? Not for food, but we're on the first opinion. It doesn't have to be food. Anything. Intentionally. Not that you're walking down the street and, it could be smoke, but you might not inhale bukhur, or incense, but, for example, in Mecca or in Saudi, they have the bukhur holder. So if you go to somebody's house for dinner or something, or an event, a wedding, whatever it is, they pass it around. When they pass it around, they take the shimal, the scarf, and every person gets it. They tuck it under shimal, right? And it holds the smell in the clothing. So it's being inhaled, right? They say that on the first call, you don't do that during Ramadan, because it's intentionally inhaling the smoke, which enters the body. That's how daqiq. That's how specific it is. That anything for that cold, anything that enters, whether it's food or it's not food, whether it's nourishing or not, to intentionally enter something into the body during the hours of fasting breaks the fast according to the first opinion. That's the opinion of the author, rahimahullah. Tayyib. The second opinion says la. It has to be something that is nourishing to the body, or is replacing nourishment to the body. If it's not that, then it doesn't break the fast. Tayyib. So he says anything that enters into the jawf, and the jawf, the inside, could be either the stomach, the throat, the halq, or the dimagh, as the nose and the ears and stuff are connected. And even in the detailed books, it goes into the mucus that comes up from the chest, right? Moving from one part to another part. If a person has the ability to remove it, instead of it going down or out, right, they should remove it. It goes in that, but not here. Tayyib. He says, istaqa'a. To intentionally, for a person to intentionally, what's the proper word? You say throw up? Vomit. To intentionally, to make yourself vomit. Right? Istaqa'a, faqa'a. To to intentionally make yourself vomit. All these things are intentional. طيب. قال ابن المنذر أجمع أهل العلم على إبطال صوم من استقاء عامدا. Ibn Munzir, rahimahullah, he has a book, Al-Ijma', where he mentions the things that the scholars made consensus on, that they all agree on. All the scholars agree if a person does this, then it is incorrect. If a person does this, it is incorrect. If a person prays like this, is correct. Ijma', which is one form of evidence, one form of dalil. Ijma' is a form of dalil in itself. Meaning, if we say it's scholarly consensus on an issue, salat is obligatory. 5 salawat are obligatory. If I say, well, what's your dalil? That all 5 are obligatory. A person may not know the ayat. They might not know the hadith. It's enough to say ijma'. Ijma' is a dalil in itself. It's enough that the person says it's ijma' that the 5 salawat or fast Ramadan is obligatory.
And that's a group of scholars?
Not just a group. All the scholars are in agreement. All the scholars are in agreement that on that issue. طيب. So he says here, Ibn Mundir said, Ajma' al-ahl al-ilm, the ulama, the scholars have agreed that the person who intentionally causes himself to vomit, that their fast is incorrect. They have to make the day up. إبطال صوم من استقاء عامدا. طيب. After that, he says, أو استمنى أو قبل أو لمس فأمنى أو أمذى. The person, these things are not, all of them are not necessarily allowed Islamically. But the point is, if somebody does this, what's the hukum on, what's the ruling on their fast? Is their fast correct or not? We're not really going into the issue as the next one. For example, the next one is masturbation. We're not talking about if masturbation is permissible or impermissible, halal, haram. We're talking about if a person were to do that during the day during Ramadan, man or woman. He says, فَأَمْنَا أَوْ أَمْذَا. So from that comes either one, the pre-ejaculation, that breaks the fast, and 2, the actual ejaculation breaks the fast for masturbation. Tayyib, he's mentioned that he's not going into the issue of the permissibility of it or not. That's not the issue. If a person does that during the hours of fasting, and one that's pre-ejaculation, is the fast correct? 2, if they actually ejaculate, is the fast correct? In both cases, he says, "Oh, istamna," and at the end, he says, and remember they do this, "Amidan," intentionally, "Dhakiran li sawmihi." They know they're fasting, they intentionally do this, then the fast is invalid. They have to make the day up. طيب. He says, "Oh, istamna," "Oh, qabbala," or the kiss. The kiss. Right? A man kisses his wife or the wife kisses her husband. فَأَمْنَا أَوْ أَمْذَا. So they either one from the kiss, either leads to pre-ejaculation or ejaculation, it breaks the fast. Meaning it doesn't have to actually be intercourse to break the fast. Right? If that kiss causes the release of sperm, either pre or the actual ejaculation, it breaks the fast. طيب. أو لمس. Or touching. A man touches his wife or a wife touches her husband, and it leads to either pre-ejaculation or the ejaculation, they break the fast. According to the author. There's some of the ulama, some say that the pre-ejaculation in these cases don't break the fast. They make a distinction, some make a distinction that the pre-ejaculation in these cases, masturbation, kissing, or touching, that the pre doesn't break the fast. Some.
Question.
There you go.
pre-ejaculation other than a stimulation, right? So if you touch the woman and you're stimulated by it, would you consider that to be pre-ejaculation?
Say it again.
If you touch the woman and you're stimulated by the touch, just stimulated, would that be before the ejaculation?
Well, the difference that they cite is the pre-ejaculation, for lack of better words, eases out.
Understood.
That's the difference. If it eases out, it's considered one thing. If it thrushes out, it's considered another thing. طيب? The one that eases out, they say, la, that doesn't break the fast. Some. Right? The thrust is the actual ejaculation. That's the one that we know that breaks the fast. But the other one, if it eases out, does that break the fast? It's difference of opinion. According to the author, both of them, they break the fast. I'm just mentioning the other side, just in case you read something, and it says that it doesn't. These, some of the issues that khilaf is difference of opinion on. Nah.
Like I'm trying to go with what I understand the statement to be. It's like there's no emission of any fluids. You just aroused by the touch or the kiss. Is that what you're saying?
La.
Does that
No, it is. It's pre-ejaculation. Something comes out.
Well, no, nothing comes out. You just aroused.
Oh, that's another thing. No. That's another
That's
thing.
what his question is.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
No, that's different.
Right.
If something comes out, there's two different things that can come out.
But he's saying like just an erection, does that?
No.
That's exactly what I was saying.
No.
Same thing.
It's a little, it's not vulgar, but it's a little, explicit, but, it's no shyness in learning.
So
Hey.
that's not a violation.
Nah, that's not a violation. That's why it says at the end, if they do these things and they say فَأَمْنَا أَوْ أَمْذَا, either they ejaculate or the pre-ejaculation comes. Something comes out. Sometimes they use the word anzal, meaning some fluid comes out. That's if we could say, the condition on these things. Something comes out. Not to say that a person should go and they should do all of these things. They say, I'm just going to make sure no fluid comes out on the day of Ramadan. That's not the issue, right? But if a person did that, right? If a person did that, what is the ruling on that day of fasting? This fasting day of Ramadan is obligatory. Everybody has the ability, has to fast. And it's not permissible to break the fast without a valid excuse. So a person breaking the fast without a valid excuse, intentionally, is sinful. Not forgetfully, intentionally is sinful. So it's not something light like that. But if this were to happen and somebody came and they would go ask, as they do in the haram, they go ask the mufti, the sheikh, and so people, they write their whole question down. As it came to the statement of Sahaba, the hadith, he said, halakt. When he went to the Prophet ﷺ, he said, I destroyed myself. That's the word he used. He said, what happened? Malik. وقعت عن امرأتي في نهار رمضان. I had sex with my wife during the day of Ramadan. So they held it some serious destruction. Destroyed. That's if you can translate it like that, right? So it's not something light. But if it happens, the Prophet ﷺ gave him, a response. And that's what this is. Not that it's okay to do. If it were to happen, what's the ruling on that day? Does a person have to make the day up or not? طيب. So those three, the second one, if the pre-jazz, some difference. طيب. The next one, he says, أو كرر النظر حتى أنزل. The person كرر النظر is that they keep looking and looking and looking and looking until they ejaculate from another, from looking. Breaks the fast. طيب. He could be looking at his wife, the wife could be looking at whatever the case may be. Whatever they're looking at. To keep looking, intentionally looking and looking and looking until a person releases fluid. Breaks the fast. And some of these, as we said, there are differences of opinion on. طيب. The next one, أو حجم أو احتجم. 2, cupping, to get cupped. The cupping, hijama. When they take the blood out, the dead blood out the body, they use those things. Sometimes they have those circles. A lot of the Olympians used it like last year. It was big on the news. But the Prophet ﷺ used it 1,400 years ago. Alhamdulillah, sunnah. But whoever does this during the day, the hours of fasting, if they cup someone or if they get cupped, then it breaks the fast. Tayyib. Then he says at the end, for all of these things that were just mentioned, for all of those, they do it عَامِدًا ذَاكِرًا لِصَوْمِهِ فَسَدَ صَوْمُهُ. Whoever does any of these things, any of those previous things mentioned, eating, drinking, putting something through the nose, inhaling intentionally, which comes under that, smoking comes under that, inhaling something intentionally. Doesn't have to be incense or bukhor, as he doesn't mention it here, but in the more detailed books. Not talking about if it's permissible to smoke or not. If a person does it during the day of Ramadan, right, breaks the fast. Also, in the more detailed books, which is the issue that we won't go into, asthma pumps, eye drops, all that kind of stuff that it enters into the body. The fatwa, the answer of a sheikh might change from person to person based on what position are they on. Anything that enters the body breaks the fast, or does it have to be something nourishing to the body to break the fast, right? So depending on which sheikh is answering the question, the answer might differ. If he's of the opinion anything entering, then he can't use it. If he's of the, that has to be something that is nourishing to the body, then they can use them. Tayyib. Anybody who does any of these things intentionally, knowing that they're fasting, that it breaks the fast. That it breaks the fast. Tayyib. وَإِنْ فَعَلَهُ نَاسِيًا أَوْ مُكْرَهًا لَمْ يَفْصِدْ. But if they did any of those things and they forgot that they were fasting, or they did any of those things and they were forced to do them, somebody forced them to do any of those things, then it doesn't break the fast. As a person can be forced to do something, it could be at gunpoint.
They did it in China.
Yeah.
China they do that.
They were forcing them, right? We might not have it, but everything is not restricted to the situation of a specific country on it. Tayyib. So if a person does any of those things, either out of forgetfulness or tayyib. Next, he mentions a surah. The things, right, they might enter into the body. It might enter into the body, but it doesn't break the fast. Tayyib. And this author, Ibn Qudamah rahimahullah, he's of the opinion anything that goes into the body, or reaches the brain, or reaches the stomach, anything, whether it's food or not food, it breaks the fast. Tayyib. So now these things, they enter. Now these things, they enter the body, but they don't break the fast now. He says, وَإِن طَارَ إِلَى حَلْقِهِ ذُبَابٌ أَوْ غُبَارٌ. If, for example, I should say a person's riding a motorcycle on the highway, right? And a fly enters the mouth. Possible? Mumkin. Right? And he swallowed it. They say, no, this doesn't break the fast. Or it could be gobar, a lot of dirt, dust. A lot of dirt and dust could be so much that it enters, that a person inhales it. When they were doing construction around the haram, they were knocking down buildings while it was a bunch of traffic. They would hold the traffic back and use dynamite and knock down a 15-story building while they holding people. People are right there. So when the building crumbles, it's dust all through the air. Right? If they're fasting and they walk by that and the people are inhaling the dust going through the air, then if that was the case, then that doesn't break the fast. It's not intentional. They're not intentionally inhaling anything. Right? It's nothing intentional about it. All the things that he mentioned in the beginning were a person did them and they did them intentionally, knowing that they were fasting. These things, they're unintentional. They're unintentional. He says, "Oh, tamadmada, aw istanshaqa. Tamadmada, aw istanshaqa, fawasala ila halqihi ma." Or, the person comes to the salat, they come to the salat, they go to make wudu. So when they go to make wudu, they clean out their mouth, right? While they're cleaning out their mouth, some water goes down by accident. Not intentional, by accident. They didn't intentionally swallow water while making wudu. They're making wudu and some water went down. That doesn't break the fast. It's not intentional. Or stanshaka. When they're cleaning out their nose, you know, you inhale so much, it goes through the nose and it comes down, right? Sometimes. If they do that while they're making wudu, or outside of wudu, right? Maybe a person just goes and they rinse their mouth out. The intention is to rinse the mouth out, not to drink the water. Or they're cleaning their nose out. They were working somewhere and they want to clean their nose out. If it goes and it reaches the inside from this type of situation and is not intentional, then it doesn't break the fast. Then it doesn't break the fast. طيب. أو فكر فأنزل. فكر فأنزل. Meaning, the person is just thinking. Maybe they're thinking about their wife. Or the wife is thinking about her husband. Or the person is thinking, whatever they're thinking, and it leads to a person without touching, without even looking at something. We're not talking about the touch, right, that he mentioned before. We're not talking about the look. They just sit there and they're thinking to the point where they ejaculate. Right? They said this doesn't break the fast. He's sitting there thinking, maybe he's thinking about his wife. Right? And he ejaculates. Does that break the fast? He said no. Right? He didn't touch anybody. He wasn't looking at anything. So it's from the hadith al-nafs that a person is forgiven for, as it comes in the hadith, that the ummah is forgiven for some things. One of them being forced to do something, and one of them that something a person may think about without acting on it. They think about something, but they don't act on it. Right? As it comes in the hadith. طيب. So all of these things don't break the fast, as they're not intentional. They're not done intentional, or they have no control. They have no control over this type of thing. One of these things. طيب. He says now, and he says, right, that he's of the opinion that anything that enters into the body breaks the fast. He says now, أو قطر في إحليه. A person may be taking medicine. So, the medicine, the doctor says that he has to take the medicine, for example, through the urethra, through the penis. Right? So, if they put, as the example they use, this is the example that's given, qattara, he put droplets, maybe it's medicine, he put droplets, right? In the urethra. Right? In the penis, they said this doesn't break the fast. And does this enter into the body? Huh?
Yeah.
They say la, they say it doesn't enter into the body. And this is the difference.
So like if you catheterize, right?
Yeah.
That's definitely in your body.
From where?
From urethra. Through your penis.
Like, this is what they say.
Okay.
They say in this case, it doesn't enter the body. This difference of opinion, and this has to be looked at because some of the, as these books are written during their time based on their information that they have as far as what's in front of them. But in some of the explanations, you can hear doctors in the crowd. And ask the doctor, Sahih? Doctor said, that's not Sahih. That's not how it works. That's not how the body works. But what they're saying is, if a person put droplets in the urethra, what happens? That it doesn't enter the body, it reaches the testicles.
Other than the stomach.
It reaches the testicles. They say it reaches the testicles, and the testicles are separate from the inside of the body. Huh?
Must have not been no doctor and all.
Hey, based on, this is based on what? This is over
1,400 years ago.
Nah, not for. This is over 800 years ago.
Yeah, but you said, sometimes, obviously that day wasn't no doctors.
There you go. I mean, they had doctors, but maybe not on, cameras and stuff like that to be able to.
All right.
But they say if it goes through the rectum, then it breaks it. The rectum goes right into the body. Right? That's the picture. So he says, that doesn't break the fast. If they put droplets through that doesn't break the fast. Through the urethra, the penis. Because it reaches that area, and that area is not considered to be from the inside of the body. Next, ihtalama. A person has what we call a wet dream, nocturnal emission. They have a wet dream, they have no control of it, right? It's the middle of the day, they wake up. Ihtalama. They say that doesn't break the fast, as they had it wasn't intentional. They had no control of it. So it doesn't break the fast. He says, or a person vomits, not intentionally making themselves vomit. They might smell something. Sometimes the stomach is weak. While some people there's weak stomach while they're fasting, so they might smell something. It might cause them to vomit, right? That vomit doesn't break the fast because it's not intentional. It's not intentional. All of these things, he says, lam yafsud sawmu. Lam yafsud sawmu. Why? Because they weren't intentional, and they didn't have any control over those things. طيب. He says, وَمَنْ أَكَلَ يَظُنُّهُ لَيْلًا. Or first, طيب. So, the second portion, or the second group of things that he just mentioned, they come from the things that are basically not controllable. A person's riding down the highway, the windows down, they're talking, something flies in their mouth, they swallow it. Right? It wasn't their choice, they didn't intentionally do that. So those type of things that people don't have control over, they don't break the fast. And the thinking was from them. A person's thinking. They didn't touch, they didn't look. As the 4 different levels that I mentioned for the release of what they call map, which is semen. They mean semen, but they call it water. The release of the water, it could be from intercourse, which is the highest degree, right? Or it could be something less than that. It could just be from touching. Some could be released based on touching. Or a level less than that. Could be based on looking. And the lowest level is the thought that a person releases based on the thought. So depending on the situation is going to depend on if the fast is invalidated or not. طيب. He says, وَمَنْ أَكَلَ يَظُنُّهُ لَيْلًا فَبَانَ نَهَارًا أَفْطَرَ. And this one is important. This is important. مَنْ أَكَلَ يَظُنُّهُ لَيْلًا. Whoever eats and he believes, right? He believes that it's nighttime. He believed that the sun went down. Right? He believed his mother, it was time to break fast, so he eats. فَبَانَ نَهَارًا. Then he finds out later that it wasn't time for Maghrib. Right? He ate thinking it was time to break fast, and he found out later that it wasn't time to break fast. It says أفطر. من أكل يظنه ليلا فبان نهارا. Why? لأنه أكل ذاكرا مختارا فأفطر. He ate intentionally. He chose to eat, and it was still during the day of Ramadan. That's if it becomes clear. If it becomes clear later on that it actually wasn't time to break fast. What if it never becomes clear? Then he's okay. If it becomes clear later on that, okay, you broke fast early, it really wasn't time to break fast. Right? Once it becomes clear that he broke early, then they have to make the day up. And that's the importance of not rushing, or not being rushed, not to say we don't rush to break the fast, because that's the son of the Prophet to rush, hasten to break the fast. That's the sunnah, to hasten to break the fast, rush to break the fast. But that rush to break the fast, as the ulama say, the scholars say, that is, you rush to break the fast when you're sure that the sun set. When we're sure that it's time, then you rush. If we know it's time, we don't just sit around and, when we know it's time, we rush to break the fast. We don't just rush to break the fast and we're not sure that the sun has set. So this person, they ate and they thought it was time to break fast. Then they find out later that it wasn't time. They have to make the day up. Tayyip?
I had a similar situation like my phone had died and I didn't know what time it was, so I went to the store and it was time. Well, according to their clock, it was time. So I broke my fast. And then when I walked in the house, nobody broke their fast.
Bomb stop.
Was you outside?
The sun was coming down, and when I went to the store, like they had like the correct time to break fast. And when I went home, it was like 5 minutes early.
Well, this issue here is also khilaf, difference of opinion in this also. What you're hearing now is the safest thing to do. Some people say that's what he knew at the time, and they're okay. Some say no. Some say there's a portion of the day that he didn't fast, so they have to make the day up. Which opinion is the strongest? Allahu A'lam. On the strongest. What's the safest? Al-Ahwat. Is that you make the day up. That's safe. This way there's no question about it. You know you broke early. I wasn't sure, this, that, and the third. Some say it's okay. But some of the ulama say, no, it's not okay. You broke fast intentionally, right? Just like this. A person ate, right? No one forced you to eat. You ate. You weren't forced before it was time to break. In this case, they say they have to make the day up. لأنه أكل ذاكرا مختارا. They say this is the same thing like the person كما لو أكل يظنه من شعبان فبان من رمضان. They say it's the same way as a person, for example, Ramadan is tomorrow. The person doesn't know, right? They compare these two. They say, so tomorrow he starts eating. Then he finds out it's Ramadan. You got to make the day up, right? He ate during the day. Nobody forced him intentionally. They say you got to make it up. That's the safer. Which one is strongest, making it up or not making it up? The strongest opinion? Allahu A'lam. I'm just telling you the safest one.
To make that situation similar, you can say somebody told him the next day was Ramadan, but it wasn't. It's like I was told that it was like a certain time and it wasn't.
There you go. So that's what you believe. You believed it was time to break, right?
Does it still be held against them?
They say you got to do what's stronger, what's safe.
What's stronger, Allah A'lam, which one is strong? Because some of the ulama say what you did is okay. Some of them say no, what you did is not okay. Why? Say because you broke fast before it was time to break. Nobody forced you. You chose to. That's what you believe. You believed it was time, right? Which is fine. But you found out later that it wasn't time. They say once you found out, they say what's important is the reality. The reality is more important than what you actually assumed or thought. They say that's where the ibrah. We go by the reality. Whatever became apparent, that's what it is. If it would have became apparent that you broke on time, then you're all right. If it becomes apparent that you broke early, they say you got to make it up. Some say that you went with what you knew at the time. I'm saying the safest thing, khuruj min al-khilaf. As Shaykh Abdul Majid, Hafidhullah, used to always tell us, the safest thing is to get out of those areas of differing, right? You can make the day up. There's no argument in that. Do you have to make it up, or do you not have to make it up? You know, there's an argument in that. Making it up, inshallah khair. So that person, and he used a specific word, yadhunnuhu, dhann. He believed, and this is what he thought, okay, I think it's time to break fast. They break fast, they find out later that they broke too early, they have to make it up. The next case is a little different. The next case, and he uses a different word. وَمَنْ أَكَلَ شَاكًا فِي طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ لَمْ يَفْسُدْ صَوْمُهُ مَنْ أَكَلَ شَاكًا فِي طُلُوعِ الْفَجْرِ. That a person, whoever is doubtful, if the adhan for Fajr, طُلُوعِ الْفَجْر, in the morning. So they're eating suhoor in the morning before we start fasting. And they're not sure. They have shak. The first word he used was dhann. Dhann meaning, yani, you 60-40 that it's time to break fast. Like you. You could be 70-30. You 70% sure it's time to break fast. Or you 80% sure, you 90% sure. If you have doubt, when they use the word shak, you say, it's the word fame. That you 50-50. And it makes a difference. You 50-50. You got doubt. So, it's time for Fajr, right? Or the adhan for Fajr is coming. That means it's what? It's still nighttime, right? That means you can eat. We can eat before Fajr. We can eat after Maghrib all the way up until the adhan of Fajr. So a person's in their house eating suhoor. They have doubt. They doubt now. Is it time for salah? Is the adhan, did the adhan, or no? Right? Because you can't eat past the adhan. You have to stop eating at the adhan of Fajr. Not the sunrise that they show on the news. The adhan of Fajr is the time to stop eating the suhoor. So now a person's in the house eating the suhoor, and they're 50-50 if the adhan has been called or not. 50-50. At this point, and they eat something. Right? At this point, it doesn't break their fast. Why? Because they're 50-50. And the asl, you have to stick with the original time. And the original time that they're in is what? Nighttime. Right? Because he's 50-50. He's not sure if the adhan was called. He's not sure if the adhan wasn't called. Right? 50-50. So that means it's still nighttime. Clear? That means it's still nighttime. It will be different if he said, I'm 75% sure that the adhan was called. That's a little different. That's not doubt. That's not considered doubt. That's ghalabatul dhann. They have they feel strongly about the adhan has been called. The ruling is different for that. If they're stuck in the middle at 50-50, I'm not sure if it was called or if it wasn't called, then it remains what it was. It was nighttime, so the ruling remains that it was nighttime if they did eat something. Yeah.
Two questions, actually. The first one is I wanted to know about the third part of the night. Is that's like before suhoor?
Yeah.
The third, just a little bit before suhoor, right?
Right. It's before suhoor. It's the end of the night, but it's still before suhoor.
The third part of the night.
Uh-huh.
All right. So, okay. So the second the first part will be like after.
Maghrib.
After Maghrib.
After
right?
Maghrib.
After Maghrib.
There you go.
Because it's starting the next
There
day.
you go.
Okay. All right. So, I've heard, and I'm not sure, but like if you don't hear the adhan, you could, I guess, assume that the adhan has been called within a 50-mile radius.
What you mean if you don't hear it? If you don't,
if you don't hear it, I mean, it's like, so I guess you should call it yourself.
if you don't hear the adhan.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hear the adhan. If I'm home, I don't hear the adhan.
No, that's what I'm saying. So,
but you had times, though. You know time, a rough estimation, you have a time. Most people have salat schedules with timings on it. Right?
Most people do.
Right? The adhan,
if you don't,
then you still, based on the time. The adhan is called a specific time. So it's not like, well, for example, you know it's not time to break fast yet. Or I'm sorry, you know it's time to stop eating. Right? You know. You got a prayer schedule right here. It says, for example, the adhan for Fajr is at 4:30, for example. Right? Some people always say, well, those prayer schedules are not accurate. They might be off a minute, mumkin, maybe 30-second minute and a half. If the adhan is at 4:30, it's 4:45. You still eating because you didn't hear the adhan? You see what I'm saying?
Right.
You know the salat is the adhan in a masjid has been established. And if it hasn't, it's time.
Right. I just wanted to erase that whole idea because I know,
right.
I do know, and I don't want to rely on the fact that I don't have a adhan.
Right.
I don't have a schedule.
Right.
And I'm just going to say, well, there's a masjid around the corner. I know they call the adhan, and I'm gonna go on that.
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Right. If you know the time, then you use the time. So if the muezzin was late calling the adhan, it's time to break fast. But that's still not a reason to rush. Make sure, as a muezzin, the job of the muezzin is a man. It's a trust that all the Muslims in that area or all the Muslims in that masjid are basing their fast based on, especially when they breaking the fast, they're based on him being accurate on his timing and calling the adhan at the proper time. So if he calls it early, then people break fast early. Right? Mushkila. If he calls it late, then people are sitting around, possibly delaying the fast when the sunnah is to hurry to break the fast when it's time to break the fast. So the person, they had doubt if it was time to stop eating or not for the suhoor. They were 50-50. The origin is that it's still nighttime. The origin that it's still nighttime. The opposite end is the same way. وَإِنْ أَكَلَ شَاكًا فِي غُرُوبِ الشَّمْسِ فَسَدَ صَوْمُهُ. Whoever eats before Maghrib, أَكَلَ شَاكًا, right? So that means we're in the daytime. It's daytime. The origin is daytime, right? A person is 50-50 if it's time for Maghrib or not. If the adhan for Maghrib has been called or not. If it's time to break. They're 50-50. If they're 50-50, if it's time to break, that means it's considered still daytime. It's still daytime. As long as they're not sure they're 50-50, the ruling is that it remains as it was. That means it's still daytime. Clear? That means if a person eats at that point, then they broke their fast. Because the origin of that is daytime until you're sure that it's time to break the fast. And that's the importance of making sure that it's time to break the fast. And not just because a lot of the, especially at the masjid, a lot of the apps on the phones, they're not all the same. One is a minute early, one is a minute late, 2 minutes early, 2 minutes late, so whose is right? And we all sitting here in the masjid, and there's a designated mu'adhin, and he's responsible for calling the adhan at Maghrib, right? If we all gather upon that one mu'adhin, that's safer. Because your phone calls the adhan for Maghrib at 7:30. My adhan for Maghrib doesn't go off to 7:32. His goes off at 7:35, and his goes off at 7:15. And we all sit in the same masjid, so whose is right? It's safer, especially inside of the masjid, to use the mu'adhin as designated, as the mu'adhin is responsible for calling the adhan at the designated time. So this person, it was daytime. It's almost Maghrib. They had doubt if it was time for Maghrib or not, if it was time for the Adhan or not. They had doubt. This doubt, the fact that they're 50-50 and that doubt means that it's still daytime. They're still in the ruling, they're still under the ruling of it being daytime. Therefore, if they go and eat like that, who goes and eats? Who would be brave enough to go and eat and you're not sure if it's time to break fast yet? And you fasted 16 hours. You fasted 16 hours, get down to the wire, not really sure if it's time to break, but I'm going to just break now. Right? That's why I said it's 50-50. If you're not sure you're 50-50, then it's still daytime. The ruling is it's still the daytime. Baqal asl. The asl, the origin is that it was daytime. You don't have anything pulling you towards, no, that is actually time to break. Therefore, you stay on what you were on. And so the person who does that and they're not sure, and they do that and they eat before the sun goes down, they break the fast, and they have to make the day up. They break the fast and they have to make the day up. And this is for the person, as long as it doesn't become clear. If something becomes clear, say if the opposite becomes clear, say that they broke it, they weren't sure they broke it, but then they found out later it was on time, then they don't have a problem. But if they broke it and they found out later that they broke it early, then they have to make the day up. Right? Whatever becomes clear is what the person is to go on, was clear. If you find out later that you were wrong, you have to fix it. If you never found out you were wrong, then you're okay. Inshallah.
I mean, hypothetical. Say, for example, the muezzin jumped the gun. Everybody break their fast.
Yeah.
You find out later he made a mistake. Do we have to make that up?
There you
The people who broke
people
on his error.
on his error. That's the importance of the mu'adhin. Mu'adhin is an amana. It's a trust. And you never know. Sometimes, like in Mecca, the whole neighborhood is waiting for the mu'adhin to call the adhan. Because it might be, where we were, it was one big masjid in the middle. You open your windows, you can hear the adhan clear. So we sit there, and there's people outside, there's people in the streets, driving down the street. They're waiting for the mu'adhin to call the adhan. That's how heavy it is. Everybody in that neighborhood, for example, if this masjid right here, it will be everybody from here to maybe Girard Avenue, to Belmont, and maybe down to the zoo. That long, this way, everybody's waiting on the adhan from here. So the mu'adhin is heavy. It's a serious responsibility. You call it early, now everybody who heard the adhan broke their fast early based on the mu'adhin calling the adhan early. Allah musta'an. You was better off calling it late. Right?
Safe and sorry.
Yeah. It would have been safe, or at least everybody's fast would have been completed. We would have missed the sunnah. We would have missed the sunnah of rushing to break the fast, but the day would be valid. The fast would be valid. So that was the last issue. The last issue was the person. And the principle is, the qaida is, if you're 50-50, you stay with what you're on. If you're 50-50, you're not sure. If the sun rose, right? You're eating suhoor, you're in the house eating, preparing for the fast. You're not sure if it's time. That means you're 50-50. You have shak. You have doubt. You're not sure if it's time. It's still nighttime. You can eat. If you find out later, oh no. Then you broke, then you have to make the day up. Whatever you find out is the reality, is what you have to go with. Tayyib? And the same thing goes at the end of the day. At the end of the day, it's almost Maghrib. Right? He's 50-50, or she's 50-50. No Muslims around, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if the sun set. 50-50, right? That means what? It's still daytime. Don't eat. Don't eat until you're sure that it's time to break the fast. This way you don't have to worry about falling into, I was ignorant, I didn't know this happened. Some say yes, some say you don't have to make the fast up. Because these days of fasting are called, they say, fi dhimmatik. It's on your neck, Yawm al-Qiyamah. right? You got to get it off your neck by fulfilling it. It's a responsibility on every person. And when you have those days left over, it's still on you. They don't fall off unless there's a specific case. So they still sitting there, say, it's on a person to make up those days. Now, if you miss a day based on rushing, right? Then you say, well, you can, and a person can. They can say, well, some of the ulama say there's a position, they say that I did everything I was able to do. I did everything I was able to do as far as finding out if it was time to break or not, and that's what I went with, and they say I'm okay. Tayyib. That's fine. But just remember, there's some who say la, some who say no. There's a portion of the day that you didn't fast, so you have to make that day up. The strongest, Allah Alam. The safest, al-ahwat, to make the day up. And I think we'll stop there. The next chapter is Bab Siyam al-Tatawwa, the voluntary fast. The voluntary fast. And then Bab al-I'tikaf. After that, Bab al-I'tikaf, the chapter of staying in the masjid, spending the night in the masjid, Bab al-I'tikaf. And the last chapter is the chapter of Zakat al-Fitr. How to pay Zakat al-Fitr will be the last one. Inshallah, we finish before Ramadan. Along with Ramadan. So we'll stop there and we'll pick up next week, inshallah, in the chapter of the voluntary fast. Any questions? We'll stop there, inshallah. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.